Hello again. We're going to do another Vintage League video today. And just before I start, I'm doing this for about a month now, so if anyone has any feedback, things they like and want me to do more of, or things they don't like, want me to change, or really any other feedback, I'd appreciate it down in the comments below, just to, let me know what's working, what's not. That would be great. All right, so let's get into the video. So the original version of idea for this deck came from a Legacy Tony Scapone video, and that was completely different. It was like a Storm combo deck in Legacy. It was running this very cool combo of Glaring Fleshraker and Curiosity, which is Curiosity is whenever you deal damage to an opponent, you draw a card, and Fleshraker has whenever you cast a colorless spell, you get the spawn that can make mana, and then you also deal 1 damage to your opponent. And that works with Curiosity. The Curiosity on the Fleshraker, you play any colorless spell, you get a ping, and then that damage makes you draw a card, and that can dig pretty deep into your deck here. And that can help set up the second combo here, which has been doing quite well for a few months in Vintage in the hands of a couple of players, namely a CRK. And that is Glaring Fleshraker and 2 Sensei's Divining Tops wins the game on the spot there. So with 1 top on top of your library, 1 top in play, you draw the other top, you play it, you get a 1 mana from playing it and deal 1 damage. So you just keep looping it. Draw top, play top, draw top, play top until you kill your opponent, which is quite good. So we have both of those combos in here. So Fleshraker with the Sensei's Divining Top and the Curiosity, which is very nice. We've also got Geralf the Fleshwright here, which is sort of a similar card in that if you can play a bunch of spells, so like top and top again, you can make a lot of zombies. It's sort of a blue Monastery Mentor. Now, Monastery Mentor is restricted in Vintage and it's white, but this is kind of a similar idea where you play a bunch of spells, you get a bunch of big zombies. So it's only the second spell of your turn and after. So let's say you play Geralf the Fleshwright as spell 1, and you play a Mox as spell 2, then you get a 2/2 zombie. Then if you can play a top after that as your third spell, you get a 3/3 zombie, and if you could play another spell after that, in theory, you would get a 4/4 zombie, and so on. There's another way of winning along with the Glaring Fleshwright there. We've got ways of setting up the combo in Paradoxical Outcome, which is great with all of our 0 drops and 1 drops here, which can pick them up and draw cards. Classic other spell here is Tinker, to get Bolus's Citadel, or to assemble our Time Vault Manifold Key combo, or to get a second Sensei's Divining Top for Glaring Fleshraker. Of course, the Wheel, just a very key card in Vintage, all the broken stuff going on. Sinking the Stupor is a nice one because it's a land and a spell, so it's blue. You can pitch it to Force of Will. It makes blue mana, and it removes a lot of problematic permanents in Legacy. Things like Collector Oof, Null Rod, Orcish Bowmaster, Hull Breacher. This is one of our answers to that in this deck. Another answer is Volatile Stormdrake. I like this card a lot. It's kind of a pet card of mine. You won't see it really anybody else playing in Vintage, but I like this one. It's a mono blue removal spell. So let's say your opponent's got a Collector Oof in play, and you want that dead to win the game. You swap creatures with the Stormdrake and the Collector Oof. You don't pay any energy for the ability here. The Collector Oof dies. That kills the Collector Oof in mono blue, which is quite nice. And then you can bring back the Stormdrake since you sacrifice the other creature with the Homeward Path. Volatile Stormdrake is also a bit different than Gilded Drake in that you can just play this spell. If your opponent doesn't have a creature, you can just play the 3/2 flyer, and then you can put a Curiosity on it, just to turn it into a little damage draw engine there, which is quite nice. Vexing Bauble, just other keys. Well, here most of the cards are just kind of staples in Vintage deck list here, kind of bring the deck together. Quite good. Our fast mana, talked about how Homeward Path is for the Drake combo here. Underground River, as we're playing this because we need colorless mana for the Glaring Fleshraker, though we also need blue mana for all of our other spells. So this land does both, which is quite good. tombs to power out some of our stuff, and colorless. Fomori is colorless, and it's a nice tutor. You can discard cards here to look at cards from our library and pick one, which is very good. I like that one as a one of. Galarian Academy is just excellent in our deck. Saga. And Abstergo Entertainment's one you might not be familiar with, but it's kind of getting played in the Eldrazi deck in Vintage right now. So it makes colorless for Fleshraker. You can use the filter, the second ability, to make blue, which is very nice. And the third ability is actually very strong too. Against Dredge, this is just pretty decent graveyard hate. And it also lets you rebuy things from the graveyard that you need, which is very good. Very strong card here, but it's legendary, so we're only running 2. I think that covers the main deck here. And then we got the sideboard here 2 other Storm Drakes we can bring in when we need them. Force of Negation for some of the combo matchups, along with cards like Steel Sabotage that can bounce Null Rod, which is quite good, and also good against Jewel Shops. And then a pretty big package here against the Bizarre decks in the format, along with 1-Up Cage we can find with the Saga that's also good against the Oath of Druids decks. And I guess one more thing before we start here I didn't mention was how this deck originated a bit. So Tony played it in Legacy, then I tried a version in Vintage. I posted some pictures in the Vintage Discord on Twitter that were pretty cool. It was us doing the crazy stuff with the Galarian Fleshraker and the Curiosity. So Justin took the deck list and he Justinified it and played a league with it, and it was really strong. He got a 4-1 with his version of the Curiosity Fleshraker deck. You can check that out on YouTube. I recommend it. But this is version 2 of the deck, the second league I played. I took a couple of ideas from Justin's version of the deck. The big one being Manifold Key Time Vault, which didn't have the first version. In order to fit that in, I moved 2 of these Storm Drakes to the sideboard here. Alright, so let's get into the league then. Alright, round 1 here. Take a look. Alright, we got a turn 2 Tinker here, which is pretty good. But our opponent is on Shops into Grim Monolith. So if it's Jewel Shops, we could just lose before we get to turn 2. That's a possibility here. We didn't have a Force of Will in our hand. And they got a turn 1 Ring. Yep, so that's definitely Jewel Shops here. So that's a scary start from them for sure. We're just going to play out the Manifold and pass. And they're drawing a ton of cards here, untapping the Ring with the Manifold Key. Let's see if they can win this turn. They can't. They're keeping up blue mana here, probably for Force of Will. So we're going to try and tinker through Force of Will somehow here. So let's see if we can find a Force of Will. And we do. That's very good. So we can tinker, and we have that force on top if we need it, which I probably do. We're going to draw that. Yep. And we're going to use our Mystical. Get a Time Walk here. The next turn, that Saga is going to pop. It's going to let us tutor up a Sensei's Divining top, which is very good with Balls of Citadel. It lets us draw any card we don't want and then just replay the top. So I guess that lets us go a bit crazy here. Now, another cool trick you can do with top is in response to Paradoxical Outcome or in response to Manifold Key, which you put in the deck, you can activate top to draw a card, respond with either Paradoxical Outcome or with Manifold Key untapping it, and Manifold Key lets you draw another card with the top. So that's 2 cards, including the top. Or with Paradoxical Outcome, you get to draw from the PO and then draw from the activation of top ability, which is pretty fun. So top, very nice with PO and Manifold Key here. And this was a great one from Geralf here. So we got to put our curiosity on Geralf, which was fun, and we got to, with the help of Citadel, of course, play a bunch of spells. And they did a 2/2 zombie, a 3/3 zombie, a 4/4 zombie. By the time we did that, we found the Vault Key combo for infinite turns, so we could just play through. We don't have to make a crazy big zombie or anything. We can just take our turns and swing twice here and win. So, good start from the league here. Got some nice Geralf action. Let's go to game 2. Alright, we've got a Force of Negation here and a Tinker. We don't have any blue mana though, so this hand's a little risky, but we can dig pretty far here with the top, assuming that resolves. We got one draw there, which didn't hit a blue. We got a recall, and we dug 3 and still no blue, so that is not good. We got powerful cards in hand, including Force of Negation, which is great, but we really need to find a blue mana here. Try again, and nope. So we get got by the Hull Breacher. So, wasn't expecting that one. And we have a force, but so did they. So we're in a lot of trouble here. A lot of our win cons are drawing cards, and Hull Breacher really shuts that down. We can deal with the Karn, but the Hull Breacher is still a very big problem. We need to find a Sink into Stupor. That's kind of our out here. I don't think in this game I brought in the Drake. I think I started them out. Hull Breacher is played in sideboards of Jewels sometimes, not all the time. Wasn't quite expecting it, but now we're aware of it. Now we're in a lot of trouble. We got the Ring and the Breacher there. So one way to win this game in this position, I guess, is to find Sink into Stupor. And we did not. We're just going to lose here, so that is okay. We will go to a game 3. The last turn I probably could have played one more spell before sinking, but I don't think we could have won at that point anyway. Right. But it might have been worth a look. Alright, so this hand is good. We got Force, and we got a turn 1 Fleshraker, and then we can play Lotus and top, doing some pings, getting cards into play, which is good. That means we only need one more top to try and win here. We can spin here to look for the win, or we can just pass. And I opted to pass. So I didn't counter the bauble because we have the hard cast Force of Negation up here. There definitely is a case for using one Force of Negation, and then we had the spin available as a second one. So definitely, I think 2 ways you could play this. But with the Fawn up, with the hard cast one because of the Lotus, I did decide to let it go. Now we can do a trick here with the top and the key if we want, which lets us draw cards by untapping the top in response to its activation. It's a nice little key top synergy. We have the Drake, so we could steal that Fleshraker, or we could just find a second top and win. We're protected here by the Lotus hard cast with the negation, but they can't actually cast Force Soul anyway. They're locked out by their own bauble here. So we get to do the Fleshraker top combo here. Just keep drawing and pinging, and then we win. So every time we play a top, we get one of these tokens and a ping, and then use that draw the other top, play it with a spawn token, get a ping, get another spawn token, rinse and repeat till they're dead. So 1-0. Let's go to match 2. Alright, so we've got a Force of Will and a Vexing Bauble here. We're just going to play the Bauble out for starters. Most decks can't win on turn 1 through a Bauble, so I like that play. We didn't draw a land, which is very unfortunate. Was very much hoping to get a land there. But we can still play out the Raker. And they've got an Oath of Druid, and that's scary. But the Bauble does keep them at bay to some extent. That's a bad draw, the Citadel, but we can get the top here, and they're going to Oath, but we still get to dig pretty far for a second top here, or the Curiosity, which we found. Now, they're playing the Pyrogoy Oath version, which is better for us than the Atraxa version. The Pyrogoyf is a very cool one. It's a bit newer. It's you can play Pyrogoyf pretty easily. So it's being played over Atraxa in some builds because you don't have to play Show and Tell. You can just hardcast the Pyrogoyf if you have it in your hand, which lets you play Planeswalkers instead of Show and Tell as additional threats, which is pretty cool. But for us here, we are more afraid of all the protection spells that Atraxa draws, so I'm happy to see the Pyrogoyf. And we got to do the Fleshraker Curiosity top combo here, which is pretty cool. Have our Curiosity on the Fleshraker. Whenever we play our colorless spells, like top, we get a ping and draw a card, which is very fun. You get to keep going here. So lots of tops, lots of drawing, ping, 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 ping. And they realize what's up here. So, really nice win here for the Glaring Fleshraker Curiosity combo. Let's go to game 2. They've got the Oath. We've got an early Tinker here, which I think is the main reason to keep this hand. And that's obviously a great draw here. They didn't have the Orchard. They weren't going to activate it anyway on their turn as long as we didn't play a creature. Now we get to get the Citadel. The Citadel and top's just going to go crazy here. Again, the top lets us draw any card we don't want to play, but we do want to play, we can play from the top. And we just get to go silly here. With the Raker dealing damage to them whenever we play a colorless card. And now we found our 2 tops. We can just keep looping the tops. We don't have to play any cards from the top of our library with Citadel anymore. Dealing them damage with the pings. And then you get them low enough, you can actually just activate the Bolas' Citadel ability here, which is pretty cool. Whereas tap, sacrifice 10 non-land permanents, each opponent loses 1 land. So, nice win there. Pretty strong against a turn 1 Oath. Yeah, so we're 2-0 now. Let's go to match 3. We're up against Unlucky Monkey in round 3 here. He is a very much a vintage grinder, plays every week, usually in multiple challenges, and often does very well, and plays Allura's Paradoxical Outcome. So it's going to be a tough matchup. See how it goes. Take a mull on the first one. We have an interesting hand here where we got the Sapphire and the Recall. but no land, and they know we don't have any land, which is not great. I just want them to crack the Lotus here for the Spell Pierce. They also had the Misstep, which was quite bad. That was unfortunate, but they don't have the a ton of mana anymore, which is good for us. Thundertrap Trainer is a cool one on their side. I let them dig for stuff. It's a fun one for PO. You can actually also pick it up with Paradoxical Outcome and replay it. So I'm going to try and get rid of this Lyris. I think in retrospect this was a mistake. I don't think the Lyris was that big of a deal. They could get back the Lotus, but that was it. They already have plenty of mana. I think I should just held the Forest and waited for something scarier. Now they find a paradoxical outcome, we're just in a lot of trouble, and Dig Through Time is quite good at finding paradoxical outcome. Or Ancestral Recall. Would have rather forced that Dig Through Time. And we're off to the races here. Their turn to do crazy stuff. And we get hit by a very big 4th Uralingus here. Ouch. Alright, let's go to game 2. Got to mulligan the first one. It's going to try and go for a strong turn here. And we've got PO up if we need it. Otherwise we can just make tokens, and then we can find a Vexing Bauble, which is quite good against their deck. Shuts off a lot of the cards and a lot of the PO chains. And then next turn we will have Hardcast Force of Negation up. So now we got Hardcast Force of Negation up, and we have our beaters, so feeling pretty good about this one. That's okay. And we get there. So 1-1 now. Let's go to game 3. Alright, so we're on the draw here, but we've got Paradoxical Outcome and turn 2 Tinker, and turn 1 Top that can dig us 4 more, according to our draw, for a Force of Will. So I did keep this one, even though we didn't have a Force of Will or a Force of Negation. I think that's worth it. But this happened, where they just got 6 Knights on turn 1 with Force or Lingus before we get to look for Force of Will with our top, which is a bit unfortunate. We need a on a Black Lotus here to cast Tinker, we lose. Even then, we're probably still in trouble. But if we got to our turn 2 there, so they're going to untap and then kill us. But if we would have got into our turn 2, we had enough mana to both play Paradoxical Outcome and still have enough mana to also play Tinker on that turn. So we probably would have won on turn 2, but we were on the draw and they won on turn 2 on the play. So that can happen. It was a very strong start from our opponent there. They only played 1/4 their Lingus and they had a ton of fast mana. So it was definitely unexpected, but they can, in theory, win on turn 1 like they effectively did there by having a bunch of Mox and PO just drawing into an insurmountable advantage there. So it's not perfect if you want to keeping a hand without Force of Will or Force of Negation, but given how strong our hand was, how we were probably going to win on turn 2 if we got there, I think it was worth it. But in this case, as you can see, our opponent had a strong start and they got us. Lucky Monkey is a great player. It was a fun match. We are 2-1 now. Let's go to round 4. We're up in against Phantom Man, another very strong vintage regular. Plays various decks though. Not quite sure what they're on. And we're just playing the Fleshraker. I was trying to bait a force here. Didn't want to just jam the Tinker into a force ideally there. They're on Dredge, and they played double Hollow One on turn 1, so that's scary. So we're going to make some tokens. Play the top, make another dude. And ideally, now we could spin top to try and find a force for the Storm Drake, but they didn't have a force, so we didn't have to do that, which was good. But yeah, if they did have force, we could have tried to spin there. If force is in top 3, we could force it back. I think we had to go for it there. They just had so much pressure on board, and they were going to they have a Dredger in the graveyard, so that worked out. All right, let's go to game 2. We bring in all of our graveyard hate here. We've got play lines and some cages and some Soul Guide lanterns. We've got a hand with a ley line, and then the Abstergo Entertainment is also a graveyard hate. Its bottom ability here lets it exile graveyards. So we tried to counter that Hollow One because it could kill us. But they've got a Force of Will as well, and then they've got the misstep for the ring, which is pretty rough. So we weren't able to stop the Hollow One, and we can't get our ring down. And they're just going to give us a brick here with the Revival, so that we can play the top and we can spin. So we have top there, and we have Tinker. That can assemble the Time Vault combo, but maybe not quick enough. Because we need another mana to get blue in 4, and we need another mana to activate the key. So it looks like we might just be a little short here. And I made a mistake there. They went through a little fast on the replay. I made a mistake that it might have cost me the game, where I did the top, activate top, and then you keep priority by drawing a card. You untap it. You do this a second time. That lets you draw a card. I misclicked and only drew 1 card with the key there. So it would have been 1 deeper. But I think we still, even with the Saga, I still don't think we get there. Though it would have been closer because we could have played the Fleshraker and then made some tokens to jump. But anyway, we're off to game 3 now. Close one. Power of Dredge there. If they can even just 1 Hollow One and Disruption can win a game. If your opponent's going too heavy against the graveyard like we were there. So let's see what we can do in game 3 here. Alright, so we got 2 ley lines. We're only going to put one into play here because if they have Force of Vigor, we can play the second one using the Lotus Spell. That's why we're only putting one ley line into play here. There's usually no point in having 2 pieces of Artifact, Enchantment, Graveyard Hate in play against Dredge because Force of Vigor, which is they're out here, just hits both of them. So you usually want to hold the second one. So we got Force of Will here. It's a little bit of a slower hand. I'll pop this out here. It's what they're putting in the exile from their Bazaarus here. They're looking for Hollow One. They're looking for Force of Vigor here, which is how they win this. We're going to go for a PO here. And they're trying to find a Force of Will for that one. And they don't, so now we've got just a ton of stuff. We play our stuff, and then Vexing Bauble should clear this up. Very hard for them to win through Vexing Bauble, so we're just going to put that back in their hand, and that's it. Alright, so that was strong. We're 3-1 now in the league, which is quite nice. Good win against Dredge there. Let's go to round 5. Alright, so we've got some powerful cards here. We're up against what looks like Lurrus Control from the slower start from them. I regret this play. I think, given as Lurrus Control and they play some of the 1-mana counters, I should have just passed, I think, in retrospect. They only play a couple of the counters. I was hoping just to avoid them, but if they're going to keep a hand with just land pass and full grip, probably is worth trying to have them play a spell and then being able to play the vault when they don't have blue up. But they got a recall off there. That definitely makes this tougher for us. We can hardcast the Citadel with the Lotus, but it's definitely not what we want to be doing. We would have rather be trying to go for a Tinker, just finding the Citadel. I think there's a case here where maybe I played too slow. I think our window here is not the best because Frog can start drawing them cards. I think maybe I should have tried to jam the Citadel earlier. Watching this, one of the good reasons to watch replays, and one of the reasons why I started doing this was just to be able to see what I did and things I would have changed there. So I think first turn there, just getting my card Spell Pierced, not trying to play around that, and then not jamming early, I think were my mistakes. Playing against a deck that's just going to accumulate advantages like the Lurrus Sacred Frog control decks do, you need to try and win. If you're not going to be able to get a window that's really where your advantage and you have a win, you kind of just have to go for it, in my opinion. There are some decks like Doomsday which can spend a bit of time with cantrips to curate a hand that can beat hate. That's a little different for them, but for most other the combo decks that don't have as much selection as Doomsday does, with like 8 cantrips with other draw spells in it, you aren't able to do that curation. So a lot of times you just have to try and go for it and hope that the Lurrus Control player just doesn't have the cards in hand that match up well against you. They could have, this is game 1, they could have Swords of Plowshares in their hand, or things like that. So, not thrilled how I played that one, but I think I am glad I watched the replay here, and I think I would do a couple things differently, like I said there. Let's go to game 2. Alright, we get to be on the play now, which is good. I'm going to use the tomb so we can just activate top right away. And that's fine, we got plenty of mana here. While they don't have access to mana for Spell Pierce or something, they're going to use that Mystical Tutor and get a Force. The idea was next turn we could play the Sink into, we could play Tinker with Force back up. I actually don't think we had the mana for that. I guess we had we could draw with top to get the second blue card for Force, so that was it. We have to play the Sink into Stupor as a mana 3. So that's Frog's going to start accruing advantages here. We need to get this Tinker and start taking life off of us. So just trying to stop that and let us get a Tinker in here. If we had a blue mana in the top 3, that did not work. Treasure Cruise is a rough one. And Null Rod's bad. So we can Tinker here, and let's see what we got. So we can remove the Null Rod, and that's it. That did not work well. Alright, we're going to get hit. Let's see if we can get lucky again. I'm just going to replay the Null Rod there. Alright, let's try it again. Now we've got a top and a Sink in the Stupor. Now we get to go crazy. Exactly what we need. We got our 2 tops on our Fleshraker, and they can't stop us, so we win this one. Definitely looked like we were losing there with, Treasure Cruise and Frogs and everything they had, but Bolus was a heck of a drug there. That was a cool win. Pretty happy with that one. Definitely was on the luckier side for us. We got to play tier outs there. And Sink into Stupor really showing why it's in the deck here too. Alright, let's go to game 3. So here I did another bonehead move. I did not learn my mistake from game 1 where I shouldn't just be jamming these artifacts into potential spell pierces. And they got me again. So pretty annoyed after this game of doing the same mistake twice here. So hopefully I won't in the future do that. But part of, again, another reason to watch the replays here is just to remind yourself of potential issues and why you lost. There's obviously some big advantages of playing out the Soul Ring early, especially against these decks that are playing things like Psychic Frog that accrue advantages. But I think there was just really no need to play it out right away. What we could have done with our hand there was just hold open blue from the Sink into Stupor to have Mystical Tutor. Then if they go turn 2 Frog, we can they use the Mystical Tutor to get Tinker, and then we could untap, play the Soul Ring, and Tinker there potentially. So they had a lot of interaction there. They had the Wasteland and they had the Spell Pierce in the Mox for the Frog. They cast the Frog on turn 2 with addition. on color mocks. So it might not have worked out for us anyway, but we didn't give ourselves a chance there. So yeah, in retrospect, I think the play was just to hold open blue in the mystical tutor. Now we're in a tight spot here. We need some luck, and they got another spell pierce. That's a problem for us. And another learn revealed. So that's really showing the power of the Lur's control deck here. They got all these answers, and they've got so many ways of drawing cards and finding the answers down deeper in their deck, and you can just close out the game that way. Lur's controls the top deck in the format by a pretty good margin, I would say, right now. And yeah, that game really showed its strength. I think even if I play a bit better there, we still don't get that one. But yeah, it was definitely a close match still. All right, so we finished 3-2. Let's go over the matches here real quick. Take a snip. So we went. All right, so just to recap here, went 3-2, so not bad. Pretty happy with 3-2s, especially with some of the decks I played that are a bit more on the still need to be refined side of things. So had a good win here against Jewel Shops, and then Oath of Druids. Had a tough one against Unlucky Monkey there, where I think if they don't have one of their top 5 or so percentage starts there, where they have the crazy turn one, maybe more than that deck, maybe closer to 10-15%, but still definitely the minority here. They don't have one of those crazy starts. Game 3 we had turn 2 PO and Tinker, and then turn 1 we had top spin, look for Force of Will. So I don't think I'm unhappy with that keep. I think it definitely showed just the power of the other decks in the format. You got to be aware of that when it happens. So fine with that one. Phantom Man against on Dredge there. We did a lot of tools for Dredge. So happy with that one. And then Lur's Control here. I'm not thrilled with how I played that one. Like I said, there's a couple things I would have done differently and things I want to keep in mind going forward here. Just learnings for myself. Maybe for you too, if you're watching. Try not to jam your important pieces unnecessarily into open Spell Pierce mana. Try and let them play a frog or something, and then you can resolve it without having to worry about that, or at least having 2 mana in play could be good. So yeah, pretty happy with this overall. You had some learnings there. I think last thing here would be in the future where I would take this deck. I think one thing I want to do is try removing these Storm Drakes, removing the Homeward Pass, putting in some Underground Seas, cutting a Geralf, and trying a blue-black version, putting in Vampiric Tutor, Demonic Tutor, maybe Yogwill, I'm not sure. A couple black cards here, and then some removal. So where we're taking the Storm Drakes out, I still want some removal for the cards like Collector Oof, Orcish Bowmaster, Hull Breacher. So I think I'll add in some of those really strong black tutors, and then maybe some removal. I think one other direction I was thinking of is, instead of that, cutting all the Geralfs, cutting the Storm Drakes, cutting the Vault Key package, and then just playing some really strong creatures, like what's it called again? The cards that are used in aggro shops, some of those cards, or some other just strong blue creatures in general, things like Psy, make tokens, or some other just like Murktide Regent type cards. We might not have enough of a graveyard fillers for that one, but I think there's definitely directions for this deck. I'm not sure if Geralf is really doing it for me. It's great when you have a Citadel, and you don't always have that or 2 tops, but I think I want some more standalone strong cards in here on the mono blue version, and then if we're going to stay very combo heavy focused, I think I do want to add black to add more of the tutors here. So that's it for me. I think those happy with the deck. I think there's some other directions to take it in, and we'll probably try this one again in a not too distant future with one of those other versions. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.